Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Your magical kiss, take me just so far. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Don't leave me like this, dangling from a star. Set me all aflame, and it's so pleasing. It sure would be a shame if you were only teasing. So, my love, before I go, turn the lights way down low and talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Don McKeag Show. The day before the last day of August, summer flying by in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and any other town that may be viewing me and viewing us. Ken Bukes is answering the telephone. We are on here from 6 to 7 every Thursday. And just to get it right, if you have Comcast Channel 13 or Verizon Fios Channel 43, we will have a rerun of this program on Mondays at 11 p.m., Tuesdays 9 a.m. in the morning, a good time, and Wednesday at 1 p.m. I also do a radio show. I hope that we have some listeners. I hear from you viewers. I hope we have some regulars that continue to catch us. But our Saturday radio show, again, the Don McKeag Show, is from 11 to 1 every Saturday, coming out of Cape Cod, station WXTK. You may also see us on YouTube. All you have to do is type in the Don McKeag TV Show. And we have now, what, Kenny, this is number 39? 39. All right, we have, this is show number 39, and friends of mine in Florida have looked up some of the former shows and given me their critique. Well, as I do on my radio and now on the TV show, this is a tough hour. It's summer and it's supper time, and we have a lot of competition. But I'm going to try. I wish I did a better job. I've been on the radio for over 20 years and used to be on every morning with Ed Lambert on the Cape at WXTK then. People think I'm angry. Well, I guess probably it has to be called some anger, but it's frustration, ladies and gentlemen. Those of us, I am now over the 70 mark, and those of us that have lived as long as we have know the difference. And it just really disturbs me to see this country, this wonderful country, this country that I owe everything to, everything. Going the way it's going. America has a soul sickness, and we see it every single day. And my purpose here, my mission really, as long as I can be on this radio, is to try to point these things out. I don't suggest that I can do anything about it, but they've always said just one voice sometimes can fill a cathedral. And we have got to follow what I always read on this show and on my radio show. It's a quote, verbatim, from Martin Luther, the year 1526. Martin Luther, a devout Roman Catholic priest who could not stand what he saw happening to his beloved church and his beloved parishioners. He risked everything. He was excommunicated, but he risked his physical well-being. They wanted to burn him at the stake. He came from Germany. Those that know Martin Luther King, which everybody in America probably does, unless they're an illegal immigrant that doesn't speak English, which we have plenty of those thanks to the Democratic Party. But that being said, how many know? How many of our young students, how many of our people know that Martin Luther King was named for Martin Luther by his father, a minister in Birmingham, Alabama, I believe he was from, Martin Luther. Anyway, I read this every single show because I want you to hear it, I want you to remember it, and hopefully somehow we'll convey it to others, our kids, our grandkids. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when a person must do something, not because it's safe, not because it's popular, not because it's popular. He must do it, he or she, because his conscience, our conscience, tells us it is right. Where has the conscience of America gone? There's so many wonderful people still here in this country that have it, but they're not in the positions to support it enough. Yes, we have people in church, we have shows on television that promote religion and a belief in God and a knowledge that we are only here a short time, but they're not running the country. The people running the country are the antithesis of that. They are. They are looking out for themselves first. They want to be reelected. That's their goal. A British philosopher once said, the man who follows the crowd will usually get no further than the crowd. The man who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been. Creativity in living is not without its attendant difficulties, for peculiarity breeds contempt. And the unfortunate thing about being ahead of your time is that when people finally realize you were right, they'll say it was obvious all along. You have two choices in life. You can dissolve into the mainstream, or you can be distinct. To be distinct, you must be different. To be different, you must strive to be what no one else but you can be. What are we telling our young people today? Are we telling them to strive to be different? Strive to be exceptional? Or are we telling them to use the system? Get away with whatever you can. Just coast. You don't have to work. Well, I've never been a huge religious person. In fact, I've been as much a sinner as anyone, more than some. But I've always had a tremendous belief in God and in the spirituality of our makeup, that there's more going on. And those of us that expect justice on the terms that our legal system has set up, doomed to be disappointed, because I don't believe the power that be has the same kind of justice in mind. We have too many injustices. When little innocent children, right now they're dying by the thousands, hundreds of thousands all over the world, little innocent, not only babies, but young people. And their mothers and fathers are heartbroken and starving. Why? Because they weren't lucky enough to be born in this country. And yet we have people in our educational system today at the collegiate level telling young people how bad this country is. And it is frightening because we do have the First Amendment. But I believe that when you are entrusted in our young people's lives and their parents are paying for that, to be brainwashing or to be propagandizing our young people is criminal. I was a teacher. I would never do that. I would never put my personal beliefs in front of my class and expect them to adhere to it. Not only would I not do that, but I would be cognizant of the fact, as every teacher and all of you people who have kids in schools should demand, and that is that they have a hold on those young people because they're grading them. They're grading them. It isn't just a very neutral atmosphere. It is, the deck is stacked. And the young people know it. And our schools of journalism have turned out liberal mush for years. And that is one of the problems that we have now. One of the things I wanted to talk about in regards to this, I'm trying to set the stage for why I say Americans' soul sickness. This country was founded on majority rule. This is by all countries and all intelligent political minds. It has been deemed to have been, for years now, the finest form of government to ever be put together on this earth. Flawed, but it's flawed for one reason: the people in there. That's what's wrong with our system now. It's the people, it's not the system. Nothing wrong, never. It is still the finest since the Greeks. And remember, the Greeks, especially the Athenians, basically set this up. It was absorbed by the Persians. And, of course, then it went right on into Rome. And Rome created this fabulous, successful country. Of course there was slavery. Of course there were abuses. But we are talking about the society that emanated from a form of government. And it just frosts me with these intellectual nitwits who criticize and find fault, and yet they would never leave this country with all its flaws. Every country has people dying, literally and figuratively, dying to get into this country. Why, if we're so bad? Well, now some would say because they get a handout thanks to the Democratic Party, who now is just over the top. And I was a Democrat most of my life. I was a JFK Democrat, which was far from what today's Democrats are. Excuse me. Now, let's look at what we've got that I consider to be a sickness of the soul. Some of the things are just appear to be small, but they aren't. They're great. We now, Kenny, you've seen this, all of a sudden, and the media is the poison. The media is toxic, mainstream media. And to show you how toxic they are, they don't even want something like Fox or people like myself or Rush Limbaugh or Howie Carr, anyone who takes the other side and points out facts, not just, opinions. This is what liberals do. They give everyone an equal opinion, just like financially. They give everyone the same amount of money, whether they work for it or not. Of course, except themselves, except the elite. Then they hoard it. They get as much for themselves as they can while distributing and trying to so-called level the playing field. I'm referring to government, not employees, but government office holders. It's laughable that they get credit for doing so much good when it's with your money and my money and our kids' money now. So what we have then is we have a system that works, but only if it works on one, the majority rule, and only if it works, it can only work if it works on the fundamental beliefs of the Ten Commandments and a recognition of the 7 deadly sins, that we are all capable of being greedy, lustful. We're capable of everything. It's all in being aware of that and aware of, that's what the law is for. The only reason we have laws is because we're all inoculated, shall we say, genetically predisposed to having the capabilities that are spelled out in the 7 deadly sins. Sloth. I used to laugh, Kenny. You're there, right, Ken? Hello, Kenny Bughes.
I'm here.
Again, this is just intelligence. This is not about a liberal and a conservative. This, to me, is just natural intelligence that used to be predominant. Now, we have a group of people running this place that say 2 and 2 can be 3. It might even be 4. We had a president that was considered a genius when he said it depends on what is. Of course, he was a Democrat. Name was Clinton. If that had been a Republican that said it, they'd have laughed him out of the country. But no, the media is in control, and they're in control of the greed, the sloth, the lust. Look at what we show out on the screen. Never mind protecting our young. How about protecting people in their 30s and 40s, out of work? Nobody talks about the age-old axioms, you know. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. How about charity begins at home? Did you hear Ben Carson the other night?
No,
now,
I
here's
missed
a man.
it.
Now, he happens to be black. He doesn't have a chance. He don't have a chance. Do you think the blacks in this country would support him? No. You know why? Because he is a Republican. Because he is a conservative.
Is that the doctor? I've heard
but
him speak before.
He's talking, and again, this is why I believe Donald Trump. Say what you will, call him what you wish. He is opening up Pandora's box that the politicians, both parties, are scared to death of. And that is, he's letting out the truth.
His numbers are going up.
They're going to continue because he's speaking for mainstream America. In that, mainstream America, I'm talking about all races, all nationalities. Do you know how many people are fed up to death with this political correct nonsense? I'm just hoping there's an uprising that just ends it.
I do think you will see that uprising. I really do. I have a lot of faith in this country.
Well, it's all going to depend on who the Republicans run, and I don't have any confidence in them. They're all absolute wimps. This Jeb Bush is a disgrace again. Just find out now he's in the tank for pro-choice, and he's been part of all this stuff. Forget what your standing is. This is somebody that's touting conservatism, and now you find out how deeply committed he was to abuses of pro-choice, which is why I'm against. Just like I'm against the abuses of any of these minority groups whose behavior now, once they get their way, thanks to the legal system, now they run with the ball, and they run over you. They're running over us in the majority. And that means all you women, all you that don't think the way they do. But anyway, Ben Carson has come out and said he wants us to stop giving money to countries who hate us.
It's a good idea.
Well, this was John McCain. To his credit, he said that when he ran against Obama. I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? When I say this country is insane, when I say the liberal establishment, they're just not wrong. They are insane. And I'll point out over and over again the insanity that's emanating from greed, from sloth, from envy, from lust, all of those 7 deadly sins. And you know, when you've got a culture that became great and on the buildings of our Supreme Court are the 10 Commandments, and yet the liberal establishment and the anti-Christ people, say what you will, the anti-Christian people, got it so that you can't put the 10 Commandments on a government building now. Now, where were the rest of them? They're a bunch of wimps. That's who, both parties. They'll stand up for somebody's right to use the F word in public or in schools, but they won't stand up for the 10 Commandments. Those horrible, horrible statements, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not. Doesn't that offend you to think that you'd have to read that on a building of a school or a library or a bank? I guess the banks can still do it. That's insane. I'm sorry, folks. That's insane thinking. When you've gone that far as a culture, you are on that slope, period. And it is just... The liberal establishment, nice people are the liberals. They get mad at me. I don't care. It's why I read about them. I'm the lone eagle, and that's fine. You know, I've lost, invitations to Democratic events. I could care less. But I liked what Ronald Reagan once said, it's nice to be liked. It's far more important to be respected. And I believe people respect you when you go against the flow and when you say things, as I do, that are truths. Now, when I say about where we've gone morally, and it is morally, this Tom Brady fiasco, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, do you understand what a contrived, absolutely unbelievable thing this entire episode has been, and what it's been based on? It's been based on jealousy and greed, envy. Tom Brady is everything that professional sports should be glad they have. And I have to laugh at all the Democrats out there. I know I wouldn't have many watching me, other than moderate Democrats do watch me, and that I like what I was. But think about this, ladies and gentlemen. What does Tom Brady represent? I'll tell you what he represents. Everything that television, especially that television mainstream news people and TV shows, coming from the executives, Tom Brady represents everything they hate. Mark my words, they hate it. And it comes from greed and envy. But first it's envy. But the executives of television, how does it mean greed? It means they want people churning in. So does the newspaper. Front page, Tom Brady destroys cell phone. Right away, he's done something wrong. Fine print later on, the next day, it finds out he offered all of the Texas to Roger Goodell. All of this has been going on, you know, for months now since the Super Bowl. I've said it at the time, and I'll say it now. There's a dislike, and I'm no fanny kisser of professional sports. They're overpaid, prima donnas, a lot of them, and the public is worse. Every time I see 75 and 80-year-old men and women and anybody else wearing shirts with Ortiz and Brady and all of them on them, and they wear them to church, it's disgraceful, in my humble opinion. Trying to be a kid again? Cut it out. Don't tell me you're a fan. Grow up. Dear God. But boy, they are more upset today about the Patriots and about Tom Brady than they are about illegal immigrants on a daily basis killing innocent American, in the last case, 3 girls. Now, they were just on the news. A 14-year-old girl now has just been murdered, I forget which city. This is all because of the insanity of allowing people in here illegally. And that's liberal Democrat message. And on top of it, a guy like Jeb Bush supports that. The Bushes did, the Republicans. They're in the tank for that. And it isn't for low-priced workers. Let me just tell you. They'll never do a proper polling. They'll never give us proper information. I will tell you right now, I will bet, because I was in the restaurant business for years, over 30 years. I will tell you, in my experience, I had Brazilians, I had Irish. Let me tell you, I would say 75% of the people that I know that worked here, including the ones that worked for me, were legal and they were good workers. They're the ones that these liberals and the supporters of illegal immigration are supporting. They're not supporting, and they're using them, by the way, to support a continuation. They refuse to have an honest look at how many illegals are in today's courts. I guarantee you can go to the Plymouth courthouse, and every day you will see, I would think, you will see. I know in Barnstable, I know in a lot of places, and how many of them are working? Zippo. And what do the liberals say? Oh, that's why they're in trouble. They can't get a job. No, they don't want a job. Let me tell you, legal immigrants and some illegals with families, they're working. Another sham. When I ran for state rep in 2000 as a Republican on Cape Cod, Dukes County, didn't have a chance, running against a 12-year incumbent Democrat and representing the county with Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Falmouth, Woods Hole, Hippiesville, Liberalsville, and I worked hard. But I saw what was going on, and I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret, and that is, if it weren't for these illegals and why they get support from Democrats, is because these are the only people available to work and will work. There have been, this is, imagine, Kenny, 2000 when I ran is 15 years ago. That was 15 years ago. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Time flies, doesn't it, Donnie?
But I found that out from merchants. And I believe it's no different right now. They're living in cars, and the cops know it. The towns know it. But they also know that they cannot fill the jobs needed out there. And now I'll tell you another fact as a former teacher. A big part of the fault, again, they're hypocritical liars in education. I keep dumping on education because they deserve it, and no one, because of mothers especially. Mothers will do anything for schools. Mothers will do anything to get their kids in college. Believe me, they will. And some fathers. But it's definitely a feminine thing. It's a status thing. And I don't mean there isn't sincerity. I believe in an education. I believe in college education. But I've said this before. I will tell you right now, I think I'm low when I say 30+% of the kids in college today have no business being there. They don't have the academic record. Some of them should never have graduated from high school. But you see, liberalism, feel-goodism says, oh, yes, but we've got to give them a chance. No, you don't. And they're the same people that if somebody drops a pass in a Patriots game or somebody strikes out for the Red Sox, all hell breaks loose. In other words, they care about ability and performance in the sports world. But when it's something they don't have anything to do with or doesn't affect them, oh, we've got to give them a chance. That's what we have, ladies and gentlemen. And just that simple thing now translates into why don't we have American kids working like we used to when I went to the Cape summers and played the piano and bartended, did other things. Because the elitists in college now decide they want to bring the kiddies back in August. When I went to college, and many of you, colleges started sometimes, the week after Labor Day, which gave the merchants at least through Labor Day. They are so arrogant, so out of touch, and so in control that the college community dictates when they are going to open. And they make it consistent with how the faculty feels. They want these winter vacations. They want to have the spring. Think about high schools now. Just think about the kind of salaries, and my friends that teach get upset about it. I don't care. It's out of control. School teaching today is overpaid in many, many cases. They can get extra degrees now on a computer. I went for my master's. I drove in 3 nights a week into BU. Not anymore. You can go right on the computer, take your courses, and get an extra $5,000 or $7,000, and you get every 5 weeks a week off. You've got teachers now that are off 10 weeks, and they are not going to work a job like we used to. And they are insulted when a person like me has the nerve to say, wait a minute, people's property taxes are based on the school budget. I bet you how many of you don't even know that a school budget, which is now, of course, exempt from town meeting, they can't touch it, thanks to the Democrats catering again to mummies and daddies and their kiddies. I'm sorry if it sounds nasty, it's the truth. 83 to 88% of all school budgets in every single town are salaries. Look it up. So when you say it's about the kids, no, it is not. So if like Plymouth, Kenny, what is it? What's the percentage now of a property tax that goes to education? 70%?
Right now it's a 72, I believe it's 72%.
72%
go to the schools, yes.
For a building buildings that are open 100 or teaching 180 days a year. Oh yes, they have special classes, they have summer school. I don't care about that. And I don't begrudge teachers a good salary, but I'm telling you, a lot of teachers could not handle the retail world. They could not handle being out there in the normal, everyday business world where you not only work year-round and maybe get 4 weeks vacation, but you work Saturdays. You sometimes work Sundays. You people that sell real estate. You people that are in retail. You managers. Look up what the teachers are making and see what you're making, and then add up how many hours you're working. But here's what happens, back to my original thing that I want clearly understood, and if I had been elected, I was going to fight for it. The trouble was, Paul Cellucci, then the governor, God bless him, he was a wonderful, wonderful guy too. He said, Don, you're going to run into those unions and then you're never going to get anywhere with a simple thing like this. Parents who are paying $40,000 and $50,000, $28,000, $35,000 to send your kids to college, to have many of them get out of college and not be able to find a job. Look that up. You people that get offended by the truth. Colleges should have to adhere to what society's needs are, to what parents' needs are. And they don't. And they never have. You look at your property tax bill, and boy, it's substantial, and look at 70% of that, and that's going to schools. Are you happy with that? Do you think that's a fair deal? Is it all about the kids? Nothing more important than our children? Of course our children are important. But it never has been the buildings. We had smarter kids coming out of one-room schoolhouses. We had teachers doing just fine with classes of 25 kids years ago. I know things have changed. But on top of that, teachers now have computers to do half the work. I mean, there's been no adjustment. But you go over to Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard in the spring, in May, when the kids have been let out of college, and they're over there, they've taken jobs in the hotels or the restaurants, and you see these pretty kids and handsome, they're out standing outside with their white shirt and bow tie and black pants, waiting for customers that aren't going to come in May. They can say all they want about the seasons and all. Yes, they're better, they're longer. We have, they call it the, I guess it's the side season or something. But it's just pathetic. And I speak for the owners. I love when the liberals, I love when these Boston politician phonies who have the same schedule as school teachers do. How many of you know how much a state senator or a rep works? How many of you know how many have full-time law offices, law practices? They make, I don't know now, 65 grand, I think, a state rep that I ran for. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've got the phone up there. And we give them gas money. Now, that was based on the fact that they weren't making any money. They were getting $5,000 to be. What is it? New Hampshire still has a low salary for their political electees.
I don't believe they're considered full-time. I think they consider them part-time in New Hampshire.
Well, and they're part-time for Massachusetts, but they call them.
They call them full-time.
And that's all. Again, I'm an Irishman. And it's all those Irish thieves up there looking to buy votes and not giving a sweet one about the taxpayer.
Vote early, vote often.
But anyway, so these are the things that I harp on only because they are part of America's soul sickness. We don't bring these knowledges of the past to our schools enough. We don't talk about the things that I know we need to. We don't stress it. Parents don't stress it. We're all only here for a short time. I don't care if you live to be 50 or 100. It is no time at all. And it's been proven, ladies and gentlemen, that those people who live self-absorbed, materially oriented lives, thinking only of themselves and their own kids or whatever when it's convenient, the society doesn't do well. Read about Rome. We are exactly where they were. We worship athletes now, just like the Romans created the, Roman amphitheaters.
With the gladiators.
And the gladiators were heroic. Now, they talk about the slaughter of the gladiators, but they don't talk about when they became champions, like we have now. All that protective armor started changing, and just like we have now, there were payoffs. Many gladiators were never killed. They lived to ripe old ages because they were protected by owners who made sure that their opponent was not going to kill them. And even the Romans themselves were fooled into thinking that there was some that were killed. This is very rarely talked about, is that it became a sham in some cases, too. It wasn't the same, and it all depended on who the emperor was, too. I mean, when you had Nero and you had, what was his name there, the other one,
was it Caesar?
No, the one before Nero, my word. I want to say Calpurnian, that was Caesar's wife, wasn't it? But good grief.
I wish I could help you, McKeag.
Well, why can't you?
I'm sorry, didn't get it to college.
But anyway, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and that comes right into local politics. Our own Tip O'Neill lived in Harwich all those years, He's one of those proponents that all politics is local, and it is. And everything you see that's wrong in the local politics emanates from the same thing I'm talking about in other great cultures, who were loaded with people looking out for themselves, who had no problem not doing the right thing if it benefited them. It's part of the human condition. And I certainly don't suggest I have answers that are going to change that. But I want to point out those things. Now, let's look at Cecil the lion.
Oh, you're going there?
We're going to Cecil the lion, I guess most of you know, and it's, again, part of the outrageous priorities that we now have in the United States of America. I mentioned earlier about these young American people, young American girls and boys, that are being killed by illegals, by people who should not be here. How'd you like to have one of your kids, you liberals out there? I know you're not watching, but you people who have your kids or grandkids that are liberal and sit down at the dinner table sometimes, although today, no. Does anybody sit down at the dinner table the way we used to?
In my house, they do.
Well, that's nice to hear. I thought most of them, well, they probably sit down, but then they have to have their cell phone while they're at dinner.
No, they're not allowed at the table.
Yeah, but most parents don't want to impose that because they're afraid their child then won't love them if they don't let them do whatever they want to do. That was another Dr. Spock or whatever that other nitwit was that the women started listening to.
You don't know my children or my grandchildren.
Well, I've met a couple of your children. What are you talking about?
My grandchildren, when they sit at the table, the phone is in their bedroom or in their backpack and not allowed at the table.
Well, that's only because of Karen, though. You're a softie. You'd let them do whatever they want to do. I know you.
Yeah, I'm a softie, all right. Yeah, okay. Fallen on my soft spot one too many times.
Well, anyway, we're looking at Cecil the lion, for those that don't know it. But again, just like the Brady situation, I want to finish the Brady thing. This is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. First, the whole incident was a sham. And you can say, oh, he was dishonest. He was playing with the footballs. Now, even if he did, let me tell you, which I don't believe he did.
No, he didn't.
But even if he did, to show you how vicious and nasty and willing to do anything to pull down a king, they had, right after the incident, the Patriots beat Indianapolis 48-6. And Adam Scott, the quarterback, I think is it Adam Scott? I always get confused with the golfer.
I think you're correct. I'm not
Aaron, I think Aaron, forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, he said, well, wait a minute, and I loved him for this, not because he was supporting Brady, because he was telling the truth.
Exactly.
He said, I like football's overinflated, so I try to make sure they're a little overinflated. It's been going on in football for years.
Right.
That's the beginning. Secondly, if that had happened in Denver, and if the quarterback had been Peyton Manning, that would never, ever have been, ever,
It wouldn't have been
an issue.
challenged.
It would
wouldn't
have gone.
challenged.
And if it had ever been brought up, guess what would have been said by the press and by the NFL and by Roger? Oh, for heaven's sake, the score was 48-6. Go home and keep quiet.
Right.
Stop whining, right?
Right.
And
Right,
that's what
exactly.
should have happened in the first place.
That's right.
Everybody has to catch the ball. When you fumble, you got to get the ball. But it didn't. And why? Because Tom Brady represents the good in America. That's why. But they hate that today, this bunch that wants to tear us apart. And the reason they want, and people say, oh, no, they don't. Yes, they do, but they don't know it. They want news. They want coverage. They want people tuning in. They want people buying the papers.
Buying a product.
And they don't care. Don't let the truth get in between their mission, you see. They don't care what it does to everybody. And they certainly don't care about an individual unless, again, he's politically correct or he's the fair-haired boy. They will not stop until they get their way. And I believe this started with Ted Turner going to his 7-day, 24/7 news coverage. We didn't need it. We still don't. How much of it? Repeat, repeat, repeat.
It's awful.
Now, I noticed on my radio station, which has ABC, I've complained for over 20 years, we have a conservative format. I mentioned who they are. The people who are listening to Rush Limbaugh, Howie Carr, Ed Lambert, Don McKeag, and all of this. And if you don't like it, don't listen. But nobody complains when a format's all liberal, isn't it? Again, the same double standard by the Democratic leadership. Not by all Democrats, by Democratic leadership. But anyway, so this ABC that does all of our half-hour and on-the-hour news is always coming in with liberal claptrap. You've heard them, the ABC. Now, last Saturday or something, there was this black man shot by a cop, a university cop. What do you suppose that network came in with every? Now, I'm certainly not saying it isn't an important news coverage, but that young lady that, again, her name escapes me. Oh, was she a pretty girl? And they had her father and her brother on, Bill O'Reilly. Rachel, was it Rachel something?
Are you talking about the girl that committed suicide?
No. The girl that was shot by an illegal.
Oh, on the pier in San Francisco.
Yeah, that beautiful girl.
Yeah.
Now, that was, when they covered that was like halfway to at the end of their news coverage, see?
That's right.
Yeah, that was that. But this black young man, it's the first thing every half hour, and it's on every station the same way. They lead in with that. Why? To get people upset again, just like they did in Baltimore and Ferguson. Anyone that thinks the news doesn't want to stoke the fires is an idiot. And by the way, I've always mentioned this. America's probably most beloved, well, I think probably the first one was the cowboy, Will Rogers, that was the most adored humorist in America. But before him was Mark Twain.
That's right.
And Mark Twain, again, was so humorous because he touched the truth all the time. I mean, he's the one that said, we have the best Congress money can buy. That's in 1890.
Right.
But what he really said that I found, and on the one hand, it makes you feel better because this is just about people. And again, why I continue to talk about the 7 deadly sins. But he said, people who do not read the newspaper are uninformed. People who do read the newspaper are misinformed. How's that? There's 150 years ago.
I've heard you say that quite a few times.
Imagine that. Thereabouts. And so we have to remember that. And as I said, am I keeping fairly calm tonight?
You're doing very well. I was getting ready to go get the blood pressure medication ready. So you're doing good tonight.
Well, anyway, what I wanted to get, so now this is the Brady thing. Now he has, first of all, he's handsome. Women love him, so that really upsets the fat, porky little guy that hasn't made it, and he's always resented that. And they're out there, and a lot of them are pushing a pencil or pen or typewriter. No, now it's a computer working for news stations in television and radio. Believe me, I'm not being nasty. I'm being truthful. And you know what we can't do is we can't handle the truth anymore in America, see? Secondly, he's got a beautiful wife. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of women don't like that. Remember what happened in the O.J. Simpson trial, you know?
Yeah.
They were talking about the black women who thought it was good enough for her.
Right.
You don't hear that talked about much, by the way.
No, you don't. No.
By the way, and now, of course, I'm now a racist for pointing that out, but it's okay to lead off, like I said, anytime a black man or woman, like the black gal that killed herself, same thing. On Yahoo, the news, today, it's right on there. Now, it's a sad case. Why is it a national issue? Why? Only one reason, because she happens to be black and she was arrested. Now, she was either a coke addict or something, and she was a sick girl. By sick, I mean she was on drugs, and they've proven that she killed, and yet it's still covered.
And she had attempted suicide a couple of weeks earlier, too.
But that's, of course, that. Now, Tom Brady is a multimillionaire. People hate that. The liberals, they can't. Of course, it's okay for Ben Affleck and all the rest of them. That's perfectly okay. Then, of course, he loved his grandmother and loves his mom and dad. He's not a drunk. He's not a druggie. He doesn't run around on his wife. Yes, he had a child with the Moynihan gal, but he's been a great father to her, and I understand the two women get along fine. He's everything, and I call it the conservative life that was a successful one in America until these people got it by the throat, and now it's all minority positions, unless you disagree with them. Unless you disagree with them. As long as you go along, and this is what we have had, and I'm sorry to say, it's emanated, as I will continue to say, from the feminine side and from the feminine gender. They are too tied up in feelings, too tied up in helping all the time and not looking at why we have rules, why we have things, and sometimes rules hurt other people. And they have no problem breaking rules when, again, their agenda is going to be serviced. And until, and this is what I mean about why I like Trump. Trump has opened Pandora's box. He's saying things that a huge amount of everyday America, male and female, by the way, they are tired, they are sick to death of everything being political correctness. I was just listening the other day, I read too, University of New Hampshire. Now, you question what I say about these college professors. Not all of them, but the ones, again, they're wacko. They're wacky. They're insane. Now they've got the kids coming up with these words you can't say or words that are offensive. Do you know waitress is now not acceptable?
I heard that.
A waitress. Of course, it's frosted me that, again, Hollywood, the female actors, it used to be called actresses, you know.
No more.
If they were flying on a plane, they were stewardesses. I guess that is really offensive, right? Now, in our day, if anybody said that was offensive, they'd say, well, you know, go outside. Will you get out of my... Not anymore.
No.
So now, evidently, a waitress is bad, you know. And, of course, you can't say anything about fat or obese. And they've got a list of all these words that you can no longer say without being offensive. What is it going to take, ladies and gentlemen, before people say, hey, wait a minute, time out. We've had enough. Because that's what we're going to have to do. And the only way it'll change is if you get somebody with some nerve, some men with some testosterone, which they aren't out there now. And that comes from people who are willing to run and willing to lose. And we don't have that anymore.
You are that voice.
Yeah, no, I could. But, again, you have to be willing to do that. I'm too old now, but, I mean, I ran for the same reason that I'm doing this show. And that was I wanted to at least know and have people know that I cared personally. When I talk about schools, I'm not out there to make teachers look, but I'm talking about the truth as far as how we can no longer afford socialism. We are a socialist country thanks to the Democratic Party. We have too much money tied up and going to government. Government does not provide funds. Government spends funds. And when they continue to milk dry the private sector, you lose your culture. And we have done this. And when people are making too much money for doing little or nothing, then the moral standards and self-worth goes down. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we don't do any favors to anyone by handing them a check. You can think that that's fine. You look at these people that are that are criminals, habitual criminals, young people. You look at their families, and you'll see generations of families who've never worked, never tried to work. The system was there, and I believe in it, to help. Welfare is there to help, but it is not there to enable. That's the difference between conservatives and liberals. And we've got to really be willing to change things. And I don't know as we have that strength anymore. I don't understand how. I brought these, by the way, Kenny. We won't get to them another time. Another discussion we're going to have is what you get in your mailboxes. Have you noticed? I give to 2 or 3 charities. I now get, this is just today. This is just today. I made the mistake, too, of sending some money and one of those win $1 million, $500,000. It takes a special person to claim the $500,000. Would you have what it takes? This is a follow-up. Now, I haven't given for quite a while, but this is the kind of stuff they sell your name and your address. And shame on me I know that, but I still did it. Anyway, thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope some of what you said rubs off a little bit. I love the people in the United States. I don't dislike anyone, but I dislike those who can't use the brain God gave them when they see right in front of them where we're going. Those people my age that say they care about their kids and their grandkids, and to see what their kids are going through now in terms of trying to earn a living and trying to feed their families, and keep voting for the people who are nothing more than handout merchants. It's sad. So God bless you. God willing, we'll be back the same time, same station, 6 to 7 on McKeag TV in Plymouth, Massachusetts. This is Don McKeag signing off. Hope you tune in on Saturday to the Don McKeag Radio Show on 95 WXTK Cape Cod. See ya.